Welcome, everyone. I'm Tara Setmayer in for our beloved Mary Trump today. And there's a lot going on. We've got some breaking news happening with a familiar name, Jim Comey. We'll get to that in a minute. We've got a reaction to Jimmy Kimmel last night. I watched it. Did you watch it? It was pretty fantastic. We'll talk about that. And a couple other things going on, of course, in politics. It's never a dull moment between Donald Trump and his minions. There's always something going on. So please jump into the conversation. We'll get to your questions and your comments throughout the show. And a little more good news at the end because we all need some emotional support. So let's dive in. Well, folks, we've got breaking news today, which seems to be any day that ends in Y. But today's breaking news comes out of the intrepid reporting of our good friend over at MSNBC, Carol Leonnig, and her colleagues, that former FBI Director James Comey is set to be indicted in the next couple of days in Virginia. Now, this should send a little bit of chills down folks' spines because once again, it's Donald Trump on his retribution tour, going after his perceived political enemies. And we all know that he's had a bee in his bonnet for James Comey for going on almost 9 years now. But why is this happening now? I think it's important for folks to understand that this indictment, well, he hasn't been indicted yet, but the scoop that Carol Leonnig and MSNBC got on this is that it's pending. It's happening in the next day or so. This is not happening in a vacuum, unfortunately. This is happening in the wake of the U.S. attorney in the Eastern District of Virginia, where this is allegedly going to happen, basically being fired because he looked at the evidence and said, I'm sorry, there's not enough here. There's no there. I am not moving forward with indicting the former FBI director based on what you're showing me here. So what did Trump do? He fired him. Unfortunately, as president of the United States, he has that power to do that. Who has he put in place? Well, he's installed now in this position as U.S. attorney in the Eastern District of Virginia, a lackey. A staffer. This is a woman who was in the pageant world with him, knew him, has no prosecutorial experience, but has put her in this position to do exactly what's about to happen now, which is to bring forth frivolous cases, frivolous suits against Donald Trump's perceived enemies. Now, it doesn't end there, unfortunately. We also heard, since this news broke about James Comey, that they're coming for New York Attorney General Tish James. I got to tell you guys, this shouldn't be a shock to anyone. I mean, it's shocking that it's happening. This is like happening in real time, but it was also predictable. Okay? Predictable. Donald Trump has been telegraphing his intent to do this since he was a candidate. But the American people just, we don't care. We don't care. We don't think he's going to do it. I don't understand why people don't believe him when he says things, because he always tells on himself. He always tells us what he's going to do. But this right here, now that he's in power and how he continues to use the levers of power of the federal government and has completely corrupted the Department of Justice, completely corrupted the FBI, that he's using these levers of power to go after his perceived political enemies and make their lives miserable. I firmly believe that there is no there with James Comey. I mean, we'll find out when this alleged indictment happens, but it's based off of this nonsense from testimony he gave in 2020 before Congress, where he said that he was never a part of any leaks. And there was some discrepancy between his testimony and Andrew McCabe, who was his deputy. And people, if you watch MSNBC or CNN, because McCabe is over there now, but Andy McCabe was also in the crosshairs of Donald Trump back during his first term. And they tried to take his retirement from him because he would not be a lackey, similar to James Comey when, Comey has a checkered, a little bit of a checkered record here, but he was never corrupt. We can argue over the political decisions he made and that it potentially cost Hillary Clinton the election in 2016, but he wasn't corrupt. Okay. And neither was Andrew McCabe. These guys were career law enforcement guys that took their oaths of office seriously. And Andy McCabe admitted that he had leaked some information to the Wall Street Journal. He implicated that James Comey may have been a part of that. James Comey says that I have a different recollection. And so this is what they're fixating on, to indict James Comey on lying to Congress. You have got to be kidding me. Now, why did this happen now? Why? Because I was like, I'm surprised they waited this long. Well, the reason why it took this long to get this BS indictment against James Comey is because the Eastern District U.S. Attorney refused to do it. Now, this is the difference between last term and this term. The last time in Trump 1.0, you still had people who were firewalls. They were guardrails. They were like, we're not going to let Trump get away with this. That's what happened with January 6th. That's what happened with they're trying to overturn the election. You still had career people that understood that their oath of office meant more than loyalty to Donald Trump. We don't have that this time. Trump didn't make that mistake this time. He made sure that he filled his administration with people who would do whatever he wanted. And the people who are still refusing to do whatever he wanted are the ones that are getting run out of town, or they resign because they just can't take it anymore. And this is happening at all levels of our government, which is a problem in and of itself that is going to have ramifications for decades to replace the institutional knowledge of folks who were in positions that had been there for years, that understand how government works, that had integrity. They're not there anymore. So that's how we got here. So the reason why it's happening now is because, as we saw last weekend, Donald Trump, whether on purpose or not, sent that message to Pam Bondi. What the hell are you doing? Pam, why haven't you gone after my people? They're guilty as hell. Well, here you have it. This is the byproduct of that. And frankly, there should really be a national outcry over this. There is no justification for what he's doing. But the timing, it had to get done because in the next couple of days, the statute of limitations would have run out on this whole thing with Comey and his testimony before Congress. So that's why people are wondering, why now? What is happening? This seems random. It's more than just a distraction. It's also because the statute of limitations on going after Comey under this BS was going to run out. So they had to do it. Outrageous. The stuff with Letitia James, also outrageous. She did not commit mortgage fraud. But the Treasury Secretary, right? Didn't we just hear a couple weeks ago that he was claiming 2 residences as his primary residence? I don't know how that happens. So, but rules for thee and not for me. So it's just the hypocrisy is crazy. And this is a developing story, so I'm sure we'll hear more. But sending out good vibes and hugs to my friend Tish James in New York. If anyone who is a New Yorker, she's done a great job. And the only thing that she's guilty of is going after Donald Trump justifiably, who's been a crook his entire life, and going after Donald Trump and trying to get the conviction for him on that on the business stuff. And maybe she was guilty of overcharging, I guess, but that's not a crime. That is not a crime. And here he is, retribution against his enemies. Well, this is consistent with what Donald Trump has been trying to do with all of the totality of his presidency, because his whole presidency has been about that. Every single policy. Have you checked the price of things? Are you doing better economically? Is Donald Trump working tirelessly day and night to make things more affordable for the American people? I would say the answer to that is no. He hasn't, because he's been spending all his time golfing and seeking retribution. That's about all of it. Oh, and kissing up to Putin, who now he's finally figured out has been playing him like a fool, maybe, and embarrassing him on the national stage. Oh, yeah, and ruining our relationships around the world with our allies. That's what Donald Trump's been doing for the last 9 months in office. Oh, yeah, and like disappearing people, the brown folks that he doesn't like, because Stephen Miller is actually the de facto president of the United States right now. excellent story about Stephen Miller in Rolling Stone magazine that everybody should read if you have any questions as to the motivation behind that guy. He is a mini Goebbels, and if you don't believe me, just check out his speech from the Charlie Kirk Memorial that literally echoed the words of Nazis in the 1930s, literally. But that's who's running the country. Donald Trump can't be bothered. He's on a retribution tour. Well, as we saw, he also has gone after free speech. And the Jimmy Kimmel saga of the last week has been pretty remarkable to watch. Now, again, last week at this time, we were all reeling from the decision by ABC and Disney to pull Jimmy Kimmel indefinitely off the air because he had the audacity to actually make fun of Donald Trump's reaction to Jimmy Kimmel, right? He was supposed to be like a son. No, he loved him. And when he was asked how he was dealing with the tragic murder of him, he said, yeah, I'm all right. And then starts talking about his ballroom, okay? That obnoxious, grotesque thing that they're cutting down like 300-year-old trees on the White House property to build, and also taking a lot of corporate, I will call them bribes, to pay for it on top of our tax dollars. He starts talking about that. And Jimmy Kimmel, that's really what pissed him off. It had nothing to do with Jimmy Kimmel saying that MAGA was doing everything they could to avoid this guy possibly being one of them. We did not know at the time what the motive of the shooter was, okay? So there was nothing egregious that he said or so insensitive that it warranted him being suspended from air. It had nothing to do with that. It was the next part where he goes after Donald Trump and says that he is reacting to this the way a 4-year-old reacts to losing their goldfish. It was like, oh, this is terrible, and then moved on, okay? So Donald Trump has had a stick up his ass for Jimmy Kimmel for years because Kimmel has brilliantly mocked him for years. So Donald Trump doesn't like that. As Mary talks about all the time, her uncle cannot stand being mocked, which is why we all continue to do it, which is why the satirical part of Late Night and South Park and all of these things continue to go after that. That's the difference between our country and many others, like authoritarian countries, where they can't make fun of dear leader or they end up in jail or worse. Well, Donald Trump admires those people, and he's been trying to do this and silencing dissent. So they put pressure through his mob boss type tactics with Brendan Carr, architect of the Project 2025 section on manipulating the FCC and weaponizing it, to threaten ABC and Disney to do this, right? So they did. They acquiesced at first, which was really disappointing to a lot of people because Disney and Bob Iger was known for years in Hollywood as being a trailblazer, as being really accepting. They were one of the first companies to offer same-sex benefits to same-sex couples even before marriage equality was legal. They were trailblazers in so many ways. So to see them bend the knee like that was really disconcerting for a lot of folks. And even the right-wingers were like, we're kind of not okay with this because free speech is supposed to be for all of us. And when you've got Ted Cruz and Tucker Carlson, Joe Rogan, all saying the same thing, like basically defending the free speech argument, all of us on the same side, we're like, then you know this is a step too far. Donald Trump took it a step too far. Well, folks, it's a win that Jimmy Kimmel was back on the air. It's a win. And everyone should take this win. Now, it's only a battle and a bigger war. But we need to take this win because it's a reminder that when the righteous anger of the American people collectively comes together, it matters. Capitalism, whether you like it or not, still runs off of the people. And the market did speak. So we think. Disney stock dropped. People were canceling their Disney Plus subscriptions. They were threatening to boycott Disney franchises. Listen, I'm a big Star Wars fan. I'm a huge Marvel fan in our house. We've watched every Marvel movie. We had Disney Plus. We love Baby Yoda and Mandalorian. Andor was a fantastic series. I mean, come on. Disney is epic. I'm a huge Mary Poppins fan. I'm a grown-ass 50-year-old woman that loves to go to Disney World and skip around and take pictures with Mary Poppins. We all love Disney. But we were also prepared to say F you to Disney if this is what they were going to do. And don't think that they didn't hear that. Don't think that Bob Iger wasn't thinking about his legacy. Don't think that the Hollywood actors and writers that said, we're not going to work with you anymore if you actually do this, okay? This matters. So when you speak up and you talk about this and you push back, private companies will respond. And I was really, really excited to see how Jimmy Kimmel would respond. Well, I think he knocked it out of the park. I don't know how many of you got to see it live. I live in the DC area, so it was preempted here because it's owned by Sinclair, which we know that Sinclair Broadcasting is a pro-Trump company. The Smiths who own it, David Smith now, who runs it, it's more ideological for them than a business decision. They're the same station group that, remember back in 2020 where they had like all their local anchors read the same script about propaganda and telling the truth during COVID. It was like super Orwellian at the time. That was Sinclair. So they own the ABC station here in the DMV. So I had to kind of pirate watch it through an app that I have on my iPad where I can watch local stations. So I was able to watch, and I watched the New York station for two reasons. A, I wanted to see the ads being run in the New York mayor's race and for the New Jersey governor's race, because both of those are very important. So I wanted to see those, and there were a lot of them. But also, I wanted to watch in New York just because I'm from Jersey and I miss the commercials and the local stuff. So I got to watch it live, and I have to say, and maybe some in the comments will bring this up. What did you guys think? I thought Kimmel knocked it out of the park. I thought he absolutely knocked it out of the park. He struck all the right tones. He was deferential where it was appropriate, but he was also defiant. You know, he was visibly emotional. You could see that he meant it from his soul, everything that he said. And he struck some points about how this was bigger than just him. Absolutely. And he was right. It wasn't about just Jimmy Kimmel. I have to be honest with you. I never watched Jimmy Kimmel at night. Not because I don't have a particular, I don't like him or anything. I'm usually watching cable news or doing something else. I don't really watch network television. I'll catch the clips. And I like Jimmy Fallon because of the musical stuff and his guests and stuff. But I appreciate Kimmel when he hosts the Emmy or the Oscars and like other things. Like I appreciate Jimmy Kimmel, but I just don't watch him on a regular basis. I don't watch any of them. I didn't watch Colbert. I don't watch not in real time. But last night, you best believe I tuned in. I wish I could have given him the ratings, but his ratings were through the roof, because I wasn't the only one that doesn't normally watch him that tuned in to watch him. People all over the country watched what he had to say. And he really spoke from the heart. And I appreciated that. That's what we need. We need more truth tellers, people who are willing to stand up and tell the truth. And the fact that Disney basically made a calculation and said, you know what? The 20% of the station groups like Sinclair and Nexstar, which is the other company that owns some of these local stations, Nexstar, let's remember, is in the middle of a $6 billion merger with Tegna, and they need the FCC to approve it. So that's why they're kissing the administration's ass and still preempting Kimmel. And then, of course, like I said, Sinclair is an ideological alliance here. So, but that's only 20% of the market. Only 20%. So Disney went forward and said, screw this. We'll deal with it later. We'll put Kimmel on the air. And he was completely unrestrained. And not one time did he say, I'm sorry. And I'm glad, because he really had nothing to apologize for. He didn't do anything wrong. He acknowledged that some people may have misinterpreted what he said, but I don't believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, he actually ever said, I'm sorry. And I'm glad, because he had nothing to apologize for. Not at all. Now, for those who didn't see it, we can't run clips here because of copyright reasons, but we're going to throw up a couple of his quotes from what he said last night, just to emphasize the point here. So, a government threat to silence a comedian The president doesn't like is anti-American. That is one of the things that he said in his opening monologue last night. He said a government threat to silence a comedian the president doesn't like is anti-American. This show is not important. What's important is that we get to live in a country that allows us to have a show like this. He's exactly right. That is exactly right. He also clarified that at no point was he ever making fun of Charlie Kirk losing his life, which was true. He actually had posted something rather, heartfelt the day before about the tragedy. It didn't matter whether you agreed with him or not. No one advocates political violence, and it was a really awful, tragic, horrific thing that happened. Nobody wants to see that, no matter how you feel about him, and I didn't agree with anything he said. As a matter of fact, my organization, the Seneca Project, put out a 6-minute montage video of Charlie Kirk's words, just in his own words. And we did it before his memorial service. So people saw, because all of the gaslighting about his legacy was too much. So my co-founder and chief creative officer, Michelle Kinney, got to work, put that 6-minute montage together, and it went viral. 2+ million people shared that video because a lot of other people were too scared to do it. But we did it at Seneca Project because the truth needs to be told. So there's that. He also said, it's important to me as a human, and that is, you understand that it was never my intention to make light of the murder of a young man. I don't think there's anything funny about it, nor was it my intention to blame any specific group for the actions of what was obviously a deeply disturbed individual. Now, if you haven't seen the rest of his monologue, I believe it's online. Go watch it. Go watch it. It's fantastic. Watch it, share it. Chef's kiss. I applaud Jimmy Kimmel for being a class act and for standing firm, and good for him. Now, speaking of someone who's not a class act, is Donald Trump. Of course, he responded when he found out that Jimmy Kimmel was going back on air. He thought he was done, right? Donald Trump gets on the Truth Social with his little fingers, little thumbs, and he writes this. I can't believe ABC fake news gave Jimmy Kimmel his job back. Why would they want someone back who does so poorly, who's not funny, and who puts the network in jeopardy by playing 99% positive Democrat garbage? He is yet another arm of the DNC, and to the best of my knowledge, that would be a major illegal campaign contribution. I think we're going to test ABC out on this. Let's see how we do. Now, he's threatening the network again, which is nuts. This is not an illegal campaign contribution. That's not true. He also went on to say that it would be very lucrative for him because he may sue ABC again about Jimmy Kimmel, and that would be lucrative to him. Now, let me say something about this. This is why in the book on tyranny by Timothy Snyder, rule number 1 is do not obey in advance. When ABC paid that bogus $16 million to Trump, who sued over George Stephanopoulos making comments about the rape case, he was just quoting what it said in the actual legal documents, but that's neither here nor there at this point. When they settled that case, that opened the door for Donald Trump to take it further and to have them by the balls. So anytime that he wanted to go after them, he could. They showed that they would obey in advance. That's what's happening here. He's doing it again. Oh, well, I got you. You guys paid me $16 million last time. Let me see what I can do now. This is what happens. If you let the bully take your lunch every day, it's never going to be enough. That's why you have to proverbially punch a bully back in the mouth to tell them, I'm not doing that. We're not doing that. And that's similar, kind of what Disney did now. They stood up to him. You got to stand up to him. And so if you don't, you're never going to feed the beast enough. They're always going to come back for more and more and more and more and more. It's the same thing with loyalty. They're always going to want more. Well, that's what he did. And that's what he's doing. And that's what he's pledging to do now. We'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see how long they do this. But the publicity, like I said, was good for business because Kimmel's ratings, I think we have it. We're through the roof. Through the roof. And we'll see. I saw before we went live today that Nexstar is now negotiating with Disney to see what they can do about this Kimmel thing. Because I don't know if this has been explained. Maybe Mary talked about this before, but those local station affiliates, they have contracts and they're not allowed to preempt certain programs, certain amount of hours for so long. There's a cap on how long they're able to do that because they have contracts here. So they could start to lose Sinclair and Nexstar could start to lose advertisers. They could be in breach of contract. So Disney and ABC could sue them. They'd be tied up in litigation there. So there are ramifications here for them other than just Trump and his administration holding them hostage with the merger. They actually have contractual obligations. And in a free and fair society, contracts mean something, for now at least. So there's a lot more going on here than just like, we don't like Jimmy Kimmel and we're not going to run him anymore. We're going to run Family Feud, Celebrity Family Feud reruns, or like they did last night. They ran news stories from earlier. Advertisers are not going to pay for that because people are going to be like, we don't want to watch that. We want to watch Jimmy Kimmel. So do we have, I think Harry Enton on CNN showed how many people, we have the graphic of what his ratings look like. Like they were through the roof. I think it was something like 13 million people. Lexi, do we have that graph?
The median video only gets 240,000. Look how many views Tuesday night's monologue already has. 6.7 million. That's over 25 times as large as the median Jimmy Kimmel video normally gets. And I was looking, it is by far the largest video in at least 6 months. So if Donald Trump's idea was to give Jimmy Kimmel more press and more viewership, he absolutely did so. Of course, I don't think that is what Donald Trump intended to do.
Do you have any sense beyond YouTube of just how big his appeal may have been? Like, a lot of people wanted to clearly watch this from all facets of not just in America, but this is from around the world.
That's exactly right. So we got this 6.7 million. I will note that number is up already about 700,000 from the last time I checked, which was about an hour ago. But take a look here. Record high Google searches last night for what time is Jimmy Kimmel on. You wouldn't have to check what time Jimmy Kimmel was on if you were a regular viewer. The reason that people were checking what time Jimmy Kimmel was on, because he was potentially pulling in a lot of viewers who normally didn't watch. And get this, it was up over 10,000%.
So there you have it. That was this morning. It's more since then, right? That was on the morning show for CNN. So it had the opposite effect. So Donald Trump and all, he's stewing about this. And the reports are that he was pissed off about this coming back from the UN, which was a disaster. If you guys saw him at the UN, oh my God. The escalator gate happening now. They think that, it was a whole conspiracy that make him walk up the escalator and the teleprompter. It was embarrassing. What a disaster, but that's neither here nor there at this point. But he was stewing about that. He doesn't care about what's happening in the world. He's more obsessed with the fact that ABC put Jimmy Kimmel back on the air. It's just, priorities, folks, priorities. But it doesn't end there. There's more bad news for the Trump regime. Trump's approval ratings are in the tank. In the tank. They don't look good for him. He's not happy about this, and I wonder why. Because he hasn't exactly been working on behalf of the American people. This is from Reuters. Trump's approval dips as Americans worry about the economy. No shit. That's usually what people worry about when they can't pay their bills, when affordability is an issue, where people can't pay their mortgages, their car payments. Google searches for mortgage refinance or what happens to my mortgage if I don't pay it have gone up through the roof over the last couple of weeks. Yeah, no kidding. The tariffs are killing people. And all these federal workers who have lost their jobs because of the Doge cuts earlier, that's all coming home to roost by September 30th. Next week, that's the end of the federal fiscal year. Those people who may have still been on the job getting paid, but they lost their jobs, they're all going to get no more paychecks. That's it, as of September 30th. What happens then? The cascading effect of that will start to kick in starting October 1st, on top of everything else. So people are pissed off, and they should be, because Trump is not doing what he promised to do. Is your quality of life better? No, it's getting worse because he's too busy on a retribution tour, as we know. It said here, some of the slides from there Only 35% of the American people approve of Donald Trump's handling of the economy, and just 28% supported his management of cost of living issues. Tariffs are taxes, okay? Tariffs are taxes on me and you, on the consumers. The foreign governments do not pay the tariffs. We do, because the businesses who import those goods pay the extra money and they pass it along to us. Economics 101. But Donald Trump thinks he's a genius. He got bought into Wharton. So, apparently nobody explained that to him. 54% of respondents said the economy is on the wrong track. Yeah, it is. These results come as a weakening job growth with a 4.3% unemployment rate, which is the highest in nearly 4 years, and inflation is accelerating. I just want to remind people that at this point a year ago, inflation was at like 2.2%, maybe 2.4%. Down from 9% under Joe Biden, okay? Biden inherited the inflation from the COVID screw up by Trump. They did things to help the economy recover. It was the envy of the world, our American economy, and got inflation down to 2.2 or 3%. The goal for the Fed is usually 2%. That's pretty damn good. But Democrats messed up that messaging, and most Americans didn't know that, and they thought that things were unaffordable. Moving on. Speaking of lying to the American people, we have to talk briefly about that disaster of a press conference on Monday. I'm sure many of you have seen clips by now where Donald Trump was telling pregnant women not to take Tylenol anymore because there was some bogus link between autism and Tylenol use. The medical community has come out vehemently against this. This is junk science. It's medical quackery. And Donald Trump, we're supposed to listen to him, and shame on those medical professionals that were standing behind him while he was spewing this nonsense about vaccines and hepatitis and, Tylenol's not good. He couldn't even pronounce acetaminophen. Like, we're supposed to listen to him? No. Well, you know else who we're not supposed to listen to? We're not supposed to listen to some of these people he's surrounding himself with, because always follow the money. Always follow the money. There was a reason why he kept going after Tylenol. Yeah, here's the reason. The Tylenol expert that they used to base this off of, he was a Harvard dean of their public health school, medical school, or the public health school. And as someone who has an affiliation with Harvard, I was a resident fellow there, but in the Kennedy School, okay, back in 2020. So it pains me that someone from Harvard would do this. But the New York Times has a story that the Harvard dean was paid $150,000 as an expert witness in lawsuits against Tylenol. Dr. Andre Baccarelli, dean of the Harvard School of Public Health, consulted with senior Trump officials ahead of Monday's announcement. Records show he was paid $150,000 to serve as an expert witness for plaintiffs in lawsuits against the maker of Tylenol. So when citing research links that linking Tylenol to autism, Trump relied heavily on this guy's statements, which are fully in question and against the main medical community's scientific research on this. Dr. Oz, as we all know, is another one who is unbelievably compromised, who had financial investments in some of these companies, maybe not this one in particular, but in the past has had a history of that, has been sued with bogus fraud, herbal supplement companies and shit. These are not people acting in good faith and not acting in the best medical interest of the American people. I don't even have to get into RFK Jr. and what a wacko he is. So I thought it was important for people to know, if you hadn't seen, that there is another, question here about the integrity of the information medical information coming out of the Trump administration. The same people who basically said, hydroxychloroquine, let's do that. Remember that during COVID? Trump telling people to put bleach up their ass or whatever he said, nonsense. This was up there with that. I thought they wouldn't be able to top that during COVID, but here we are now trying to guilt women into taking Tylenol. When they take Tylenol, it could link to autism with their kids. That's absolutely not true. There's studies that say that there is no linkage there. It's like super, super small amount, and they're still not sure about it. So, but Donald Trump said, tough it out, ladies. How the hell would he know? Toughing anything out, Mr. Captain Bone Spurs. Finally, I want to mention one other thing before we get to your questions, because I know folks have some questions, and I'm going to do some Q&A here like Mary does. So we'll do some Q&A. But I thought it was important that folks also see that there is this continued undercurrent of people talking about Donald Trump not leaving in 2028. And I don't know if you've seen, but there's like a gift shop outside the Oval Office now, because everything is a freaking grift with this guy. Outside the Oval Office, there's like a little gift shop thing that he has where he has all this Trump merch, which I don't understand how it's not a violation of the Hatch Act, but like that matters anymore with these people. And he's got hats that say Trump 2028. Steve Bannon has said that they are working on a third term for Donald Trump. This whole ballroom thing, that doesn't seem like this guy's planning to leave, right? So anyone who says that, oh, well, the Constitution says that he can't serve a third term. The Constitution says a lot of things. And this administration has said F you to the Constitution time and time again for lots of other things, like due process and freedom of speech, and just go down the list. The 10th Amendment, states' rights, sending National Guard into places where they don't belong. Like, it's just, so don't think that just because the Constitution says it, that Trump and his people are not going to try to test it. Today, the Senate Majority Leader, John Thune, who when I worked on Capitol Hill used to be a reasonable guy. But here's another one who has bent the knee and is scared, okay, another craven coward, to stand up to Trump and his unconstitutional ways, to say, absolutely not, we're not doing this, that's not a thing. Lindsey Graham, who's like a barnacle on Trump's ass, okay, he can't get any more, he can't suck up to him anymore, constantly kissing Trump's ass. Even Lindsey Graham is out here saying, joking about Trump 2028. Well, Dana Bash today on CNN asked the Senate Majority Leader, what do you think about this? What about Trump 28? Lindsey Graham was saying that he hopes that Trump never leaves and that we have a Trump 2028. This is what John Thune said.
Your colleague Lindsey Graham was on Fox last night and once again suggested that there should be a third Trump term. I know that he has a sense of humor. Maybe he was joking, but he's not alone in saying this. Can you say definitively, as the Senate Majority Leader, you do not believe constitutionally that President Trump or any president could have a third term?
Well, I think the Constitution speaks to that issue, and I think it's pretty plain, Dana.
Okay, so no Trump 2028.
Well, I didn't see. I know Lindsey said that before, and I think he generally expects a pretty lighthearted response when he says it.
Okay.
What? John Thune, you are a senator. You swore an oath to the Constitution. You know good and hell damn well that the Constitution does not allow for a third term for Donald Trump unless you amend the Constitution, which has not happened last time I checked. He can't definitively say, absolutely not. It's all a joke. Oh, just being fun. It's not a... Everybody, I know this audience probably doesn't need to be reminded of this, but they're not joking. They are not joking. This is serious. They are trying to work hard on ways to keep this guy in office, which is why it's so important that the Democrats wake up and start fighting fire with fire, like Gavin Newsom and Pritzker and some of these others who get it. Democratic leadership in the House and Senate, not so much, but they better wake up. and stop begging for meetings and writing strongly worded letters and hoping that Donald Trump is going to adhere to tradition and the Constitution. The Republicans are not going to stand up for the Constitution. They didn't do it after January 6th. They're not about to start doing it now. This is not a joke. When Donald Trump says this stuff, believe him. They're selling merch. The guy is not planning to leave unless Mother Nature has something else to do with it. Between now and then, he's going to do everything he can to stay there. We, the people, cannot allow that. You see, I have my we the people. We the people must demand more of our Democratic leadership. And if Chuck Schumer can't get out of his own way to meet the moment, then he needs to step aside. If Hakeem Jeffries can't step up and actually meet the moment that this requires, then they need to freaking step aside. The American people cannot sit back and allow this. And Democratic leadership, I swear to God, you guys, this is not a joke. It's not a joke. So pay attention, as my grandfather would always say. Pay attention to not only what they say, but what they are doing. While Democrat leadership is writing strongly worded letters and begging for meetings, Donald Trump's people are working on how to violate the Constitution and keep him there. So, with that said, we're going to do some Q&A right now before the show ends. Lexi, go ahead. Let's see. What do we got? Oh, well, we have Larry DuPont, who just became a YouTube member. Congrats. Welcome. Mary's network always appreciates folks who are paying members, who subscribe. This is how we keep the algorithm going and how independent media keeps the word out. Because guess what? No one's going to save us but us. So thank you, Larry DuPont, for supporting Mary Trump's network. Sue Lou, how much money being spent on this endless stream of frivolous Donald Trump lawsuits? You know what, Sue? That's a good question. Unfortunately, when Donald Trump decides to sue, he's got the whole Department of Justice, and they can sue, and it's taxpayer money that comes from that. And Donald Trump's lawyers, I don't know why they keep representing the guy. He never pays his legal bills, but I guess they get rewarded with judgeships like Emile Beauvais. Okay, in the middle of nowhere. Thank you for the $10. Let's see. Jimmy was spot on. Perfect combo of seriousness and humor. Robert De Niro was the absolute icing on the cake. Yes. Thank you for reminding me that the incomparable Robert De Niro, they did a little skit him playing a mob boss as the FCC chair. It was hilarious. De Niro's the best. He is the best. Joe Colorado, $4.99. Thank you for your support. Thank you, Tara. Keep up the great work. Thanks for sitting in for Mary. Oh, it's my pleasure. Mary's not only a friend, she's also a huge supporter of Seneca and our work over there. And I adore her. And any time that I can step in and fill her shoes, which are tough ones, I'm happy to do it on her behalf. We all love Mary, and she'll be feeling better. I think she'll be back tomorrow. But sometimes, she's a little under the weather today, and I'm happy to step in for her. Meow, meow. Okay, cat lover. I'm a cat lover. Love this. Okay, my electric bill doubled because of AI companies. My electric bill went up 100%. My electric usage stayed the same. In about a dozen states, our electric bill will go up 100% because of AI. Well, that's a good point. I live in the Northern Virginia area, and a big issue here are data centers. We are a mini Silicon Valley here in this area, which is why Loudoun County and Fairfax counties are some of the wealthiest counties in the country because of a lot of the tech investment here. But it's come at a cost, and they are building data centers left and right, and it's actually become an issue for the state and local races. And there's a governor's race here in Virginia. It's really important. Anyone watching, if you live in Virginia, please, early voting has started. Please go out there and vote for Abigail Spanberger because you have a lunatic in Winsome Sears on the other side. But it is an issue. And it's also an issue in New Jersey. The electric bill and utility company issue between Mikey Sherrill and Jack Chittarelli. There's ads going out about it. They had a debate where they were arguing back and forth about what they're going to do about this. This is something we have to pay attention to that has not gotten enough attention nationally about the cost of AI and these data centers and how much electricity it's going to power. And this administration keeps getting rid of renewable energy projects and, solar and wind and things to try to reduce the strain on our electric grid, not to mention how our electrical grid is susceptible to hacking, and our enemies are looking at how to disrupt that too. It's a whole nother conversation, but meow meow, you make a good point, and that is something to pay attention to. Ella Nina, does Tara have her own channel? I personally do not have my own YouTube channel, but what I do have is a Substack called Uncompromised by Tara Setmayer. So you can check me out over there. Our Seneca Project, my organization with Michelle Kinney, we do our joint show on our Seneca Project channel. We do a show called The Stakes on Thursdays at 7:30. Also, the Seneca Project, for those who don't know, we are a super PAC that is women-led. We are a messaging and content organization. And unfortunately, we are not financed by billionaires. We are financed by the generosity of good old-fashioned regular Americans. So if you guys like our content and our ads and our videos, we just put out a Charlie Kirk video, like I said, last week that got 2 million views because no one else had the balls to do it. So, of course, women step up to the front lines here, which makes us targets. But you can support us over there at the Seneca Project channel. And also, we have a show called Over It that you can check out over at the Mayday channel. So there's lots of places you can find me. So thank you, Ella, for asking that question. I think we have time for one more. Is he bailing out Argentina because he's actually bailing out private equity investments his buddies have in Argentina? Oh, RH, what do you think? There's always a quid pro quo here with Donald Trump. Follow the money. All right, that's it for Q&A tonight. We're going to end on the emotional support moment. And I love this as an animal lover because anything having to do with cute animals, I'm here for it. So tonight's emotional support moment that we're going to end the show on comes from Claude the koala. Claude the koala made headlines when he was caught binging on expensive eucalyptus seedlings. Now he's back. He's in the limelight, not as a troublemaker, but as a mentor. Claude has started sharing his leafy tricks with younger koalas, turning his midnight snacking into a kind of koala classroom. You got to watch this. This is from Australia, Channel 9.
Caught in the act. For the first time, Claude the leaf thief captured on CCTV tucking into seedlings after pulling off another break and enter at the nursery near Lismore.
Claude is a very naughty koala, but he's obviously a very hungry koala, and he is showing us just how desperate it is for koalas.
Claude went global a few years back when he was snapped binging on thousands of eucalypts. But now, Claude has a partner in crime. This is Claudia, caught recently following in Claude's claw prints.
The new koala that we discovered in the nursery was quite a shock to my staff.
There is a serious side to the munch and run antics of the koalas. There aren't enough trees in the region, so a volunteer group, Bangalow Koalas, has been out planting trees. Supported by the Worldwide Fund for Nature, at the end of the year they will have sown 500,000 trees in the area.
WWF Australia has an ambitious goal of doubling the number of koalas by 2050.
Back at the nursery, new fencing is, so far, keeping Claude from squeezing in.
We're glad that you're so fat now you can't get back in and eat our seedlings.
Good news for Claude and the other koalas. They have friends on the outside, doing what they can to ensure the koalas can thrive.
The koala, they're the cutest things ever. And the thing about it, though, is that if you're ever in Australia, do not ever approach a koala. They're cute, but they're mean little bastards. So don't approach the koalas. Just admire their cuteness from afar. They're not like otters, where they're like very passive. Koalas can be a little ornery. So if you see a Claude the koala eating eucalyptus, just let him eat it. Let him eat it. But shout out to the WWF and the folks out there in Australia who are doing their part to make the world a better place, and hope that more little Claude the koalas have a habitat to live in and thrive. So thank you everyone who stayed with me today. Thank you everyone who donated today and subscribed. We so appreciate you. Some folks have asked how they can support the Seneca Project. We're at senecaproject.us. So we thank you for your support there. And big hugs to Mary. She should be back tomorrow, and we'll see you then.